Hey guys, and welcome to My Deck Tech with Blue White Red Control / Kiki Control / whatever they called it on coverage. We're just going to call it Kiki Control. So
Can we call it Angels and Fairies?
we'll call it Izzet Splash Restoration Angel.
That sounds good.
All right. Let's go and take a look at the deck and talk about all the cool stuff it can do. So normally this deck plays out like a normal control deck. We have spot removal spells with Lightning Bolt, Path Exile, Electrolyze. We have counter spells with Mana Leak, Remand, Spell Snare, Cryptic Command. We also have card advantage with Sphinx Revelation, Snapcaster Mage, and occasionally Wall of Omens. Now the way this deck plays out in a lot of matchups, you're just going to be playing a control game. But much like Splinter Twin or like Tarmo Twin decks, you're going to want to have a backup plan against decks that are trying to just go way, way over the top of you. And that's where the Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breakers come in. Now, Kiki-Jiki with Restoration Angel, you target Restoration Angel with the ability, the copy comes in, and you get to basically blink out Kiki-Jiki, but since he has haste, you just get to do it again, over and over again, making infinite angels and killing your opponent. So this is a 2-card kill. Kiki-Jiki also works pretty well with Wall of Omens and Snapcaster Mages, but for the most part, you're just trying to kill them with this 2-card combo. Most of the time, it's going to get stuck in your hand until you have a point where you can flash in Restoration Angel, untap, and kill them, and those spots are going to be pretty hard to find against decks with counter spells like Brad's deck. But there are so many weird decks in Modern that you just have to have some way to finish the game, and it's good for a control deck to have a finisher that's clean, because sometimes you can't really rely on Celestial Colonnade to get the job done. Now, in order to fit all these, random combo pieces into the deck, we've had to cut things like Lightning Helix from the deck, trim down on Path Exiles, trim down on Electrolyzes, and even trimming down on Snapcaster Mages to allow us to fit all these cards into the deck. So that's going to make us suffer a little bit in the more aggressive matchups, but Wall of Omen helps to mitigate that to an extent. Vendilion Click is a disruptive element that goes pretty well along with the counter spells to mess with your opponent's hand, but a lot of times if you have a redundant Kiki-Jiki in your hand, or you just need to hit your land drops for the next few turns, you can target yourself and put a spell on the bottom like Path Exile or Lightning Bolt against Brad's deck, which will probably happen at least once today. The mana base is a little awkward for the Kiki-Jikis, I think. I would think a second Cascade Bluffs or possibly even a third Cascade Bluffs might be worth trying or having, but we do have a lot of Steam Vents in the deck, since that is the most important land in the deck for helping us cast Kiki-Jiki. 8 fetch lands to go get them, 2 islands, a mountain, and a plains for fetching basics against decks where you can't afford to take the damage, or potentially just against like Blood Moon strategies, having the island and the plains. 4 Celestial Colonnade, which combo really well with Restoration Angel to close the game quickly, and then a pair of Tectonic Edges, which will be really good in this matchup since Brad's playing Tron, and a Desolate Lighthouse to help filter excess lands and things closer to the end of the game.
Yep.
All right, guys, well, that is Kiki Control main deck. Let's go and take a look at the board and then get to battle.
Good. Yeah, I like that. God, I hope you Stony Silence me.
I probably have to, but you even have repeal, so it might not even be worth it.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Like shuts down Mindslaver, O-Stone, Talisman? Is that it?
No, and the 1 mana card.
Oh, Expedition Man. That might be worth it. Just slowing you down a little bit, but we'll talk about it in sideboard. Okay. I'll probably bring it in for game 3. All right, so in the sideboard, we have a plethora of cards that are very hateful, and that's generally how modern sideboards go. And you can see that there's a bunch of 1 and 2-ofs in the board, simply because of how much of our deck we get to see every game with things like Remand, Sphinx's Revelation, etc. But to start off, one of our bad matchups, I think, is Affinity. They just have this game plan that can go under you and be just like incredibly fast and resilient to spot removal, and that's why we're playing 3 copies of Stony Silence. This card is also pretty significant against Green-Red Tron, and I'm not sure how it's going to be against the blue version of Tron that Brad's playing, simply because Brad has access to repeal, and also it shuts down way fewer cards than it does against the Green-Red Tron deck. But to combo with this against Affinity, we also have 2 copies of Wrath of God, which also kills Thrun, which is why we're playing this over Supreme Verdict. Also, it's a little easier to cast, but that's not usually all that relevant.
And there's not a lot of fish-style decks in the format.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like Delver-based strategies. If Delver was like a better deck, or like Merfolk saw more play, then this could potentially be Supreme Verdict, but Thrun sees way more play, and this card's just a little bit better. One copy of Shadow of Doubt, again, a Hoser 1 of to bring in against Scape Shift. It's just a counterspell, draw a card against them. Sometimes it obliterates all of, or no, they don't have to sacrifice all their lands, so this never gets their lands, but this is basically counterspell, draw a card against them.
It also does a lot of good things in other matchups, though, and it's like a good card to just have access to, because everyone plays one of this. If an opponent is holding up like the ability to cast a double blue spell, you have to respect it a lot. So there's a lot of times that I'll have to like fetch in inappropriate times just to play around that card.
Yeah, anti-graveyard, we have 1 Rest in Peace, 2 Relic of Progenitus. I'm not really exactly sure on the split, but this is what Sean McLaren played in his sideboard, so I'm giving him a little respect and not really messing with it, playing like 3 Relic. I assume it's because this is just like the hard lock against some graveyard decks, whereas against like Tarmogoyf decks, this can, you know, slowly grind their graveyard away. And if you ever get to a spot where you want to draw a card and then bolt their Tarmogoyf, that's like a good way to do it, and it cycles in the meanwhile. We have an Izzet Staticaster, which is fantastic against Lingering Souls decks, Affinity, Birthing Pod. This card is just insane in a great number of matchups, and I kind of want to. But again, Sean McLaren's board, just trying to respect that as much as possible. And then we have a Singleton Anger of the Gods to go with the Wrath of God. Lots of gods being mad.
Yes.
Just want to point that out. A Singleton Spellskite to come in against Splinter Twin. Wear and Tear as a versatile sideboard option against artifacts and enchantments. A Celestial Purge against Liliana. I don't know other than that.
It's mostly just an anti-Liliana Bob card.
It also hits Gristlebrand. Just want to say that.
It does hit Gristlebrand.
That has happened to me before when I played the Gristlebrand.
I think Bob
deck,
Maher and Liliana of the Veil are a lot more scared of this card.
Yeah, the Jund deck, like this card can be a little awkward at times, though. While it does deal with Bob and Liliana, it doesn't kill Tarmogoyf or Scavenging Ooze, and those cards can pressure you out of the Jund decks, and if you get stuck with that in your hand, it might be a little awkward, but I do like having an answer to Liliana out of this deck. And then a Singleton Dispel against, I guess, the Mirror when you're trying to resolve Sphinx's Revelation or things like that. Very similar to Standard.
Yeah, any deck that's playing Remand, this card is very good against.
All right, guys. Well, that is Blue, White, Red Kiki Control. We'll be playing in just a second, so scroll on down.